So torrential streams is because of heavy rain, there is gushing of water in the rivers and all that. In such gushing of water condition also, the organisms can thrive there. So what are the abiotic factors in an environment? It is the light, it is the temperature, water and soil. So these are the 4 important abiotic factors. So abiotic factors such as temperature, then water, light, soil, all that also decides the biome of a particular region, right? Hello everyone, a warm welcome to a new chapter of second PUC, that is Organisms and Population. I am Dr. Divya, Biology faculty, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, Mysuru, Temple of Excellence. So we know that our world is quite fascinating, right? Every day we find different forms of colorful living things in our planet. Why is this diversity ever possible? Of course, it is because of the different genes that are responsible for the diverse organisms that are formed, and also the evolution process that is responsible for this diversity. So when we talk about diversity, different types of questions usually arise in our mind. So when you look at a bird, say for example, we hear the bird singing in the morning or chirping in the morning, a question pops up. Why this particular bird is singing at this particular time? And how is it able to sing? So why is it singing? The answer for that question is, of course, to attract a mate. That is, during the reproductive stage, in order to attract a mate, they usually sing. And another question, how these birds sing. So how do they sing? By using their vocal cords or their voice box, they usually sing. So likewise, different questions arise in our mind because there are diverse different organisms or diverse types of organisms that are living in this earth. So say for example, when we look at a flower, we'll ask, why is the color of the flower white? Usually, the flowers that bloom at night are white. So the question arises, why do the flowers which bloom at night are white in color? It is because the white color can be easily be visible during the night time for the nocturnal insects. So that is why they are white in color. And next, talking about when we look at a cactus. Cactus also belongs to the plant kingdom. But in spite of that, why do they have spines and do not have leaves? That question again arises. And we know the answer for that. It is because cactus usually live in a ecosystem, or their niche or the habitat is always a desert or a dry condition. So in order to prevent loss of moisture, the leaves get reduced to spines. And because if the leaves are there, they will not have, that is stomata will be there. So instead of the stomata is there, then transpiration rate will be high. So to minimize the transpiration rate, the leaves are reduced to spines, which is called as the phylloclade. Next, talking about these chicken spurs. So chicken spurs are nothing but on the feet of the chicken, they have bone-like structures which actually helps them to sense their surrounding. So because of the presence of the chicken spurs, usually they are able to sense and understand which is their mother. And also they'll have certain olfactory sensors and all that which will help them to identify their mother. So likewise, all the different organisms in this environment or this planet Earth, they are diverse in their own ways in order to adapt to different environmental conditions. So this chapter, that is organisms and population, depends on why exactly there is different forms of or diverse groups of animals living on this earth. And whenever we study biodiversity, biodiversity is usually studied in different forms. But in this particular chapter, that is biodiversity can be studied right from studying the macromolecules, because all living components are made up of macromolecules such as the lipids, proteins and the carbohydrates. And these macromolecules together form the cells, and the cells, they group together to form the tissues. Tissues together form the organs, organs together form the organ system, and the organ system together forms the individual organism. That individual organism will form a population, that population will form a community, and that community will form a biome, right? Or the particular habitat. So what is a biome? Biome is nothing but a particular habitat in which the organism is living. So it will form a biome. But this particular chapter of a second PUC, it mainly deals with two important concepts of the biodiversity, that is organism and population. So we shall begin with the session. So talking about ecology. So talking about ecology or the biodiversity, it is nothing but ecology is nothing but in an environment different forms of flora and fauna that live there, or biodiversity is also the different forms of flora or fauna that live there. So when we study this particular subject related to ecology or biology, it deals with the interaction that is occurring between the organism and its physical environment, that is the abiotic environment. So what are the abiotic factors in an environment? It is the light, it is the temperature, water and soil. So these are the four important abiotic factors, and the living organisms in a particular ecosystem or a biodiversity actually depends on four of these particular abiotic or the non-living factors. So among them, there are four levels. So based on these, we can decide the population of a particular area can be decided based on the abiotic factors. Now, when we have to talk about the diversity of the organisms in that particular population, it is usually studied in four levels. That is, it is usually studied in organism level, that is in population level, then in community level and biomes. So we know, I had told you, first there is formation of the macromolecules. These macromolecules form the cell, cells form the tissues, tissues form the organs, organs form the organ system, and these organ system, they form the organisms, that is individual organisms. So you can see a variety of different organisms. That is why it is called as biodiversity, because biodiversity means bio means life, diversity is different forms of life living here. So different forms of organism ranging from the plant species, then we have the primates, then comes the organisms which dwell in the oceans, that is the octopus and all that. Then comes the organisms which dwell at the bottom of the ocean, such as the starfish. Then we have the reptiles again here, the corals, then the insects, that is the dragonflies, then the birds, then we have amphibians, then various other forms. Likewise, there are different forms of organisms. There are mammals, different forms of organisms that actually live in this earth, and each of these are individual organisms. They are individual, right? So there are different individual organisms living in a particular area or a habitat, and in that particular area or habitat, these individual organisms, they come together to form a population. So this is a population of deer, right? So likewise, population of monkeys in that particular area, population of the insects in that particular area. Again, in the insects, different types of insects there again. So likewise, we have population. This is a population of deers. Next, these populations, they come together. Each of these populations, they come together to form a community. So here you have community of zebra and you have a community of elephants. In this picture, if you can see, community of zebra and community of elephant, they form groups and they are living in that particular habitat, right? So it is community. Next, these communities together, they form the biome. So it will become their biome. So say for example, a community of polar bears, their biome is the polar ice caps or the Arctic and the Antarctic regions. The community of the desert animals. So this is a community of animals in the desert. So the biome of that particular animals living in the desert is the desert, right? So it is a biome here. So talking about the biome, we have the lion, the progon, then various desert lizards, then these coyote. So various desert animals. So all these are the different animals that are living in a completely dry form of land wherein the biome is the desert. So it is a biome. They have adjusted to that particular habitat. So likewise, now different populations living in groups in a particular biome. So that is why when we study biodiversity, we need to study about all these things. But your second PUC chapter is only concerned with studying about the organism and the population as of now. So first talking about organism and its environment in the particular region in which it's living, how the organisms, what type of organisms should live there depends on the environmental factors. So here, and again, how does the environment of a place be decided? It is decided based on the tilting of the earth towards the sun. So we all know that the rotation of a planet, that is the earth around the sun, and the tilt of its axis towards the sun is the one that actually causes the annual variation or the yearly variation in the intensity and duration of temperature, because the sun emits the heat, and that heat that is absorbed by the earth depends on what is the position of the earth or which side of the earth is facing towards the sun, and the tilt of the earth towards the sun. So that is why we get different seasons depending on, say for example, in India itself, we have different seasons. We have rainy, winter, then spring, then summer, all those different seasons are there. How is it decided? Again, our country, exactly how it is facing towards the sun during the rotation of the earth, that will decide, right? So that is how the variation in the seasons will occur. And these variations will actually decide what that particular biome should be, whether it should be a desert, whether it should be a grassland, whether it should be a tropical rainforest. All that is dependent on these variations that occur in the earth. And along with this variation, precipitation is also very, very important. So what is precipitation? That is, precipitation means it is nothing but both rain and snow together is called as the precipitation, because rain also forms water and snow also eventually forms water. So this is precipitation. So these two actually, they account for the formation of the major biomes such as desert. So desert, if we say desert means they will have lesser rainfall and higher temperatures. Right. So that is why desert will form. Rainforest, they will have more amount of rain, more seasons of rain. And tundra. Tundra is such a vegetation wherein they'll have a moderate temperature, moderate form. So here talking about, they have given a graph here wherein on the x-axis they have decided they have plotted the mean annual precipitation, which is measured in centimeter. That is how much rainfall or snowfall is falling based on that. Next, on the y-axis, they have plotted the mean annual temperature calculated as degree Celsius. So here you can see, talking about the Arctic and the Alpine tundra. So what happens if the temperature of that particular region or the earth, if it is at somewhere around minus 10 degrees centigrade to 5 degrees centigrade, if you can see here somewhere below 5 to 5 degrees centigrade, and their annual precipitation is somewhere between say 25 to 100, that is only 25 to 100 centimeters of rainfall if they're receiving, and the temperature is high, then that particular region will be Arctic and Alpine. That is, snow will be falling. Of course, rain will not fall here. Snow will fall. Why? Temperature is in minus here. So that is why. It will result in Arctic and Alpine tundra region. So tundra region is nothing but they'll have snow will be there, and also the temperature will be minus degrees Celsius. Next, talking about the coniferous forest. So coniferous forest, if you can see, if I just draw a line here and somewhere starting from here up till here, you can see their rainfall or precipitation is from 50 centimeter to around somewhere 230 centimeter. So 230. And the temperature is also, it is ranging from somewhere from 0 to 15. So temperature is 15 degrees centigrade, 0 to 15. So in such temperature, they will have coniferous forest wherein lots of pines and all that are growing, because still there the temperature is snow-laden itself. So that is why, or the condition is snow-laden itself. That is why. Next, talking about the temperate forest. So temperate forest, if you can see, I'll just draw a line here. Temperate forest starts from here up till here. So, and also the rainfall, it is somewhere between 55 centimeters to somewhere 230 centimeters of rainfall. Again here 230 or somewhere around, not 230, it is somewhere around 170 to 190 centimeters of rainfall, which is enough for temperate. Means When you look at the temperature, temperature is also not normal. Rainfall also they will receive moderate. So that such forests are called as temperate. So in such parts of the earth wherever they have a temperature of about that is 10 degree to somewhere around 25 degree and all that, they will have that is temperate forest. And also if the precipitation or rainfall is somewhere between 50 to 170 or 90, they will have this temperate forest. So again talking about desert. So desert, if you see, no rainfall at all. Precipitation is less than 50. Quite less than 50. Very rare. And temperature is also very high. That is somewhere here. More than 5 to always about 20 degree. So what happens here? If the rainfall is also less and temperature is also more, obviously it will form a desert here. So that is desert. Next, talking about grassland. Grassland will have more than the desert, they will get the rainfall. Somewhere around 55 centimeters of rainfall they will receive. And the temperature can reach up to 25 degrees centigrade. But now you can ask me, temperature is more than the when compared to that of the desert, but still why it is a grassland? Why grasses are growing there? It is because they are getting rainfall more than the desert, right? So that is why they are, at least grasses and all that will grow in the this particular region wherein it will form a grassland. So that is how. Next, talking about tropical. Tropical means it is always rain. Too much of rain. So you can see here precipitation somewhere where it will start. It will start from 150 centimeters to about 430 or 450 centimeters of rainfall they will get throughout the year. So that is why rainfall is more. And also temperature, in spite of temperature being 20 to 22 degrees centigrade, but the rainfall they receive is quite more. So that is why the vegetation there will entirely change. So this is how, depending on the temperature and depending on the precipitation, the biome of a particular region will be decided. And depending on the biome, the type of organisms or different types of organism or variety of organisms living there will also vary, be it the trees or the animal species. So all these actually will result in the formation of diverse groups of organisms in a particular population. So next, talking about some of the examples of different biomes that exist because of the regional and the local variations that are occurring in the precipitation and the temperature. Some of them are in India, we have the tropical rainforest. So tropical rainforest means temperature is also moderate and also the rainfall is also moderate. Next, we have deciduous forest. So deciduous forest also they have somewhat that is moderate temperature and rainfall. And talking about desert, rainfall, precipitation is very less and temperature is quite more. So here tropical rainforest, here there is no dry season at all. Throughout they will have rainy season. So the best example is we have Western Ghats. So Western Ghats, all that have tropical rainforest. Then for deciduous forest, we have, deciduous forest means summers are more but rain is less. So we have Andhra, the forests of Andhra Pradesh and most of the Telangana states, Orissa, all these have deciduous forests. Next, talking about deserts, that is Rajasthan. Thar Desert of Rajasthan. It is a region which receives less of precipitation and more of high temperature there. And here, in spite of temperature, if it doesn't reach to the higher levels also, because of less precipitation, it will result in the formation of a desert or sand dunes. Next, talking about sea coast. So sea coast, usually the temperature is high humidity. They will have, if it is raining, also it will be very heavy. Temperature also it will be too much. So that is why they will have this sea coast region is nothing but it is a kind of temperature wherein both the temperature, rain as well as sunlight is to the extreme or the heat is to the extremes there. So these are different that is biomes or habitat in India. So next, talking about organism and its environment. So organisms, so on planet Earth, life exists not just in a few favorable habitats, but they also exist in certain habitats which are extreme to the core and also very harsh. Like we have, so favorable habitat means the mesophytic regions, all that we see today is a favorable habitat. But imagine there are certain bacteria, thermophilic bacteria, which can live, that is hot springs. So hot springs, it goes beyond 100 degrees centigrade. There and all they can survive. So they can live in moderate temperature, some organisms, as well as some organisms can live in very harsh environment. So we have certain examples here. So there are organisms which live in the scorching, that is very high temperature Rajasthan deserts. There are various scorpions, desert lizards, the desert camel, all that which live in such scorching temperatures. And we have the rain-soaked Meghalaya forest. So Meghalaya forest is a home to a lot of insect species. It is because of the rains and the amphibian, different amphibian species, reptiles, all these tend to live in the rain-soaked Meghalaya forest. And we have the deep ocean trenches. So in deep ocean trenches also organisms are found. So in deep ocean trenches, we know that in the deep ocean or the ocean floor, there is sunlight will not reach. So there are plants which live there, the algal forms, that is the larger kelp forms. So they actually live there in spite of not having enough sunlight. So they also can live there. Then in torrential streams also some organisms. So torrential streams is because of heavy rain, there is gushing of water in the rivers and all that. In such gushing of water condition also, the organisms can thrive there. Next, talking about the snow-laden region or the polar region, that is the permafrost. So polar region or permafrost region, we have penguins, then there is polar bear and all that living in the -°C temperatures. Next, in the high mountain tops, there are various types of goats, then snow leopards, all these which are living in the high mountain tops. Then we have thermal springs. In thermal springs also we can find them living, and also we can find them living in the stinking compost pits. So thermal springs, I told you the temperature is beyond 100 degrees centigrade. There also there are certain bacteria which tend to thrive or live there. And not just that, even our intestine also there is a unique collection of microbiome in our intestine. The best example that I can give you is of the lactobacillus bacteria, which tend to thrive in our intestine, therefore keeping the person healthy. So that is why even in our intestine also it is a unique habitat for hundreds of species of microbes. So that is why the different types of biomes or habitats, the organisms tend to live in spite of having, that is adjusting themselves to the particular habitat or the temperature condition in which they are living in. So next, talking about what are the different factors that actually lead to variation in the physical as well as chemical condition of different habitats. So we have various abiotic factors as well as biotic factors. So abiotic factors such as temperature, then water, light, soil, all that also decides the biome of a particular region, right? So here temperature. So if the temperature is high, in desert condition, there different sets of organisms will live. If it is in water, different sets of organisms will live. Light, when there is availability of light also, the type of organisms living in a habitat depends on the availability of light in that particular habitat, as well as the condition of the soil as well. So all these in the next coming session we shall study in detail. So for now we shall understand what are the different abiotic factors that actually cause the variations or the diversity of the organism living in its particular habitat. So the factors are temperature, water, light and soil. So next, talking about the biotic factors. So there are various biotic factors. So abiotic factors means they are the non-living factors. Biotic factors are certain, that is the living factors. So there are certain organisms such as the pathogens. Pathogens also decide the particular what kind of organism should live in that particular biome or not. And the parasites, then the predators and also the competitors. So predators means, say for example in the grasslands, the population of a deer will be decided by the predator. So the population of that deer in that particular grassland varies according to the predation capability of that particular predator organism, such as the tiger, lion and all that living there. Next, talking about competitors also. Competitors, everywhere there is competition for survival. So if we take the example of a forest which is having very high canopy, that is very large trees which cover the trees that are present below. So these that is the plants which live below, they also try to adjust and adapt themselves by in order to get the sunlight whichever is peeking through the canopy. So likewise, they adapt, they compete for the sunlight, for space, for nutrition, everything. Likewise, pathogens. Pathogens compete with the plants they are trying to attack, because plants also will produce certain defense enzymes in order to keep the pathogens at bay. But in spite of that, the pathogens try to compete or try to survive with the plants. Next, talking about parasites. So different parasites also decide the organisms that has to live in the particular biome. So all these biotic factors will also decide what exactly the habitat should look like. So these are the different abiotic and the biotic factors. So with this session, we understood what are the different types of geographical areas that are there, or different types of habitats that are there, and how these habitats usually depend, and the organisms living in that particular habitat depend on the biotic factors and the abiotic factors. So I hope you understood this session well. In the coming session, we shall briefly discuss about the major abiotic factors. So the major abiotic factors that we came to know was, we'll discuss about the temperature, how temperature decides the population of a particular habitat, how water, light as well as soil decides the population, or how the organism, which type of organism has to live in that particular habitat, how they are decided by the abiotic factors, and how these organisms adapt themselves to these abiotic factors. All that we shall study in the coming sessions. Thank you.